Will you see more people actually really taking a stance and embracing the power of targeting spending? Have you seen it in recent years, or do you think the protests that we saw over the last weeks will accelerate?
Thank you, Francine, for having me. It's good to be here talking about these issues. And it's a great question. I've been sort of dealing with the issue of investing and underinvestment, or the opportunity to invest in underrepresented entrepreneurs on both sides of the Atlantic for the last 30 years. And what I feel is that we really need to go from platitudes to action. When I started as an entrepreneur and got my first venture capital, the numbers look the same as they do 30 years later. Less than 1% of venture capital and risk capital goes to Black entrepreneurs, and less than 4% goes to fully female-run and founding teams. So that number hasn't changed at all. What we do need at this point is not just continue looking at the problem, saying that it's terrible, we should protest, we should do all of those sorts of things and point this out, but then we need to do something, and that is to put our money where our mouth is, which is why ImpactX exists, so that we can actually put risk capital, VC dollars, and pounds and pence in this situation into organizations.
And Eric, this is what we've been trying to figure out on Bloomberg, is actually how you measure success, right? How you measure the fact that the world becomes a bit more equal. How much money are you hoping to raise for ImpactX? And again, your message is basically, if you believe in something, then put your money to use to drive the results that you want. Are people doing it, or are they just talking the talk?
That's the question of going from platitude to action, I believe, Francine. That quite frankly, what we have noted is the pipeline that we have created in Europe consists of over 600 companies. Of those 600 companies, if we look at the capital need of those companies, about 300 million is needed today, this is pounds, in order to be able to fund their need. And when we look at them fully scaled, over 3 billion is needed in order to be able to actually have their full scaling, their full scaled capital need. That's a huge number, and we know that around the world that not that much money is being put into underrepresented entrepreneurs, whether they be women or whether they be people of color. And that quite frankly, if that's not going to be done by organizations, or it hasn't been done classically by organizations, we are in a position that we say to these organizations and challenge them, you need to talk to organizations like ImpactX about how do we create pipeline, how do we vet companies, how are we able to find such interesting companies that we think are going to be the next Amazon, that are going to be the next Google, that are going to be the next Airbnb. How are we finding those companies, and how are we helping them to grow? And if you're unable to find them, what do you need to be doing in order to make that happen? Again, if you want to change the situation, use the levers that you actually have. And for venture capital companies and private equity companies around the world, what they have is capital. What they do is invest. What they do is actually try and build companies. So feel free to follow our example. Feel free to partner with ImpactX. But what we'd like to see is we'd like to see more funding targeting underrepresented entrepreneurs.
I believe you're trying to raise £100 million for the first fund. What kind of conversations are you having with institutional funds? Is there appetite for what you're doing?
It's a very interesting question, Francine. There's a lot of appetite in high net worth individuals on both sides of the Atlantic. So currently we have high net worth individuals from the east and the west coast of the United States, from the UK, and from France. When we talk to institutional investors, we get some interest from family offices who believe in our double bottom line. We are a double bottom line fund in that we believe in financial returns, which makes sure that we can sustain the fund. And then secondarily, we believe in impact being measured in positive social impact. And in our situation, we're looking for job creation, particularly among people, underrepresented entrepreneurs and underrepresented employees. So we find that there are family offices who are institutional investors who believe in that message, and they are interested in talking to us. When we get to some of the more established organizations, ImpactX finds itself hitting a buzzsaw of challenge, i.e., some people don't actually believe that underrepresented entrepreneurs are a good investment risk, and so we don't even speak with those organizations because it's not going to be helpful for them or for us. Secondarily, many funds believe that you need to have a proven investment thesis, and there haven't been a huge number in Europe organizations who actually target underrepresented entrepreneurs. We are changing that every day by our track record, but that is something that then has to become part of the conversation. So institutional investors are beginning to hear our message and asking for more and more meetings, but up until now, as you might note, there are not a lot of institutional investors who on their own have got to the conclusion that underrepresented entrepreneurs are the pathway to significant financial return. We are one of those who believes that that actually is the case.